741, that's your stupid news. Dr. Robert Hopkins with UAMS. Good morning to you, sir. How you doing today?
Doing great. How are you this morning, Scott?
I'm doing fine. Glad to have you on this morning. Dr. Hopkins is a professor. He's the division chief of internal medicine. He's a practicing physician there, too. And he's also the chair of the National Vaccine Advisory Committee. What is your role in that? What do you do on that particular committee?
Well, we spend a lot of time talking about what needs to be done to strengthen our current vaccine practices in the country. We try to talk about how to encourage people to be vaccinated and to build a system so that we get vaccines into arms of people, and to help make sure that we're developing vaccines for new threats as we go forward in this world we're in.
Very good. Dr. Hopkins, what about the vaccines right now? The Biden administration has talked about trying to get this done as quickly as possible, but it comes down to supply. Where are we with supplies in Arkansas?
We're really tight right now, Scott. We have started a effort at a vaccination clinic here at UAMS to vaccinate our patients that are in the 1B group, as the governor has emphasized. And we're really concerned about being able to continue to do that unless we have more vaccine available. And I've heard a number of other places around the state that are having trouble getting vaccine. Right.
Why is that? Why is there such a shortage of this?
Well, I think that really is a challenge in the multiple different layers that are making decisions about vaccines getting out. You know, there's a lot of demand across our country, and having a plan that depends on individual states to make a determination rather than a centralized plan to roll it out across the country, I think has been a real challenge for us.
Do you think any of that will change?
I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. Right. On a couple of accounts. One is I think there's going to be a bigger push to get the current manufacturers to get more vaccine out from the factories. And then I think we also have a good chance that hopefully in the next few weeks we'll have one or even two more vaccines that will potentially be approved. And that means more vaccine available for us to vaccinate Americans.
Right. It's Dr. Robert Hopkins with UAMS. The vaccines, we got to consider, too. We're in the U.S. We a lot of times think we're in our own bubble here, but this is a worldwide issue, and so these vaccines that are being made are being distributed widely, and so there's competition not only in the States but also other countries, too.
Absolutely. And, one of the vaccines that's out that's being used in England and Europe has not even been submitted for approval here in the United States because the company recognizes they can only meet so much demand.
Right. All right. Just curious about all that. When we see the updates on numbers from the health department, what we're seeing right now, we saw, especially after the holidays, some really big spikes. And then we saw, some numbers that dropped off for a few days and then another decent spike yesterday. What explains the variance in how these the cases are reported and where we see these big swings, the ups and downs there?
Well, I think it's a combination of multiple factors. One is how many people are actually coming to get tested. If you have one day where you only have 1,000 people in the state of Arkansas are tested, you're not going to have that many cases detected. On the other hand, if you have a day where you have 10 or 20,000 that are tested, you're going to see a lot more cases. So that's one piece. The second is how many people are willing to go in and get tested. I've heard that at least in some places in the country, you've got people not getting their kids tested when they've had an exposure because they're worried about them not being able to play their sports. That's going to affect your numbers, and it potentially is going to cause more spread in the communities. And then finally, I'm hoping that we're seeing some tail out from some of the gatherings that shouldn't have happened but did happen during the holidays and around New Year's Eve. And, so we're seeing ups and downs for a number of reasons.
It's Kevin Miller talking with Dr. Robert Hopkins about COVID-19 vaccines and the rollout here. As far as Arkansas is concerned, we are in, phase 1B now. And what does that mean, these different phases?
Well, the different phases are different groups that should be prioritized to get the vaccine. We started off with healthcare and public safety personnel, as well as our patients in nursing homes and the nursing home staff. That was 1A. 1B that we're in now is all adults 70 and older, and also all of our educators, because we need to keep our kids in school. We need to keep our teachers safe so that they can continue to teach our kids.
Dr. Hopkins, there was a story that I read yesterday, and it comes from Florida. They've got those senior citizen communities there, and a lot of the seniors got their first round of the shot, and then they are hesitant, even though they're due to get round number 2, to get that booster because they're afraid of the side effects. And there's a word, too, that once you get the second, get that booster again, the side effects can be more intense. Can you speak to that? What's that situation about?
Well, if you look at the trials that led to the approval of both of the vaccines we're using now for coronavirus, the vaccines did tend to cause more in the way of local side effects after the second dose than the first, meaning more people having a sore arm, fever, fatigue, achiness, and generally those things lasted only about 24 hours, even in those that got the second dose. And so I think people are concerned about that. My emphasis would be, isn't potentially having a little bit of a sore arm and fatigue and maybe a little fever, isn't it worth going through that to get high-level protection from the coronavirus? I think it is. And so I really would encourage people to, if you're scheduled to get that second dose, get that second dose, because we don't know how well you're going to be protected with just one dose.
Curious about this, too, real quick, the variances that we're hearing about with COVID-19. Any insight on that?
Well, they've been reported in 20 states now. Arkansas, I don't think, has reported any yet. There have been a couple of studies that are in the review process that look like the current vaccine does provide protection against some of these variants. We just need to continue to look.
All right. Hey, it's Dr. Robert Hopkins. He's a vaccine expert, UAMS. He does a whole lot there, too, and a practicing physician. Dr. Hopkins, thank you for taking the time this morning and talking about this.
Happy to do it, Kevin, and everyone keep your mask on.
News Radio 102.9 KARN. Keep your lights on, too, because it's icky outside. Let's take a look at what's happening with our traffic now. Rebecca Davis has the update.